السلام عليكم.
Walaikum salam. Hi,
Hi, how are you today?
I'm okay. I'm all right, thanks. How about you?
Alhamdulillah, I am okay.
Okay, good. Can you hear me clearly? Is the
Yeah,
connection good?
yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay, so let's have a little revision. Let's talk about our last lesson. So if you remember in our last lesson, we talked about get, and we discussed the 4 different ways of using get. Sometimes it's used to mean receive or obtain. Sometimes it could mean to become, to travel or arrive. And, you know, there are other expressions with get. What did we talk about after that? Yes, we talked about the third conditional. And we talked about the story of Carol and Owen. Also, we've got Anthony, who talked about his life story. And finally, we had Michelle. And then we talked about the third conditional in grammar. We agreed that the third conditional is about the past. It's not about the present. So let's just quickly, just circle the things we talked about. So it's about the past. It's about something imaginary. And here we agreed that Carol, she did meet her husband and she didn't stay at home. So this is the third conditional. And of course, when it comes to the grammar, we agreed that we use would or wouldn't have plus the past participle. And in the if clause, we use the past perfect. And you can use it either way. You can start the if clause in the beginning, or you can leave it at the end. There's no difference. And after that, I think the last exercise we finished was the listening exercise. And we did number 6B, which was the listening exercise, the last thing I think we finished. And
Yes.
I remember, there was a little issue with the weak forms, like of, I would have, of. So you will never hear have, you won't hear it in the strong form when you're using third conditional. In general, the have, when it's used with would, you will never hear it in the strong form. You will never hear would have, wouldn't have. You will never hear it. It's always of, would have, wouldn't have, would have, wouldn't have. So it's so this is an important point to remember. And the same thing with the had, they usually contract it, like here in the beginning. It's very, very rare to hear if I had stayed home. Almost no British person would say this. Almost everyone would say, if I'd stayed home, if I'd stayed home. So they use always the contracted form I'd instead of I had. And this is another important point you have to remember, that I'd is the contracted form for both I had and I would, right? So you need to pay attention. Which one are we using? Is it I had or is it I would? So this means you need to check what comes after. So this means after I'd, if you find past participle, then this means you used had. It's past perfect, right? But for example, if you used I'd like to go, or I'd like to see, or I'd like to infinitive, then this means it's would, I would. All right, so this is what we talked about. So now let's jump to exercise number 8, where we get a chance to do some exercises. So here it says, fill in the gaps in these third conditionals with the correct forms of the verb. So what we're going to do is just use the rule and try to complete them correctly. So let's read number 1. If her friend hadn't introduced them, they wouldn't have met. What about number 2, Sana? How would you answer number 2?
Okay. She'd, yes.
Okay. Yes, she is correct. If you
She would have. I don't know the past participle of the became. because I think became past simple
Correct. You're right.
and become, maybe it's the same, become like the.
You're right. It's the same. Mhm.
Okay, she would have come a
Mhm.
serious
Mhm.
athlete
Athlete. Mhm.
if she had come last.
Okay, let's write it. She'd have become. Oops, in English. She'd have become a serious athlete if she'd come last. Okay, all right. What about, I don't know, your answer grammatically is correct, by the way, but I think they forgot not. Do you get the idea? I think it's the meaning is that if she came last, she wouldn't have become a good a serious athlete. Do you get the idea? I think I think it should be negative. If you get my point. So I think it should be like she wouldn't have become a serious athlete if she had come last. Do you get the idea?
Maybe here the book forget the note.
Yes, that's what I think, because the meaning is better. It's better if you have not, because I don't think anybody will become serious if they come last, right? It's usually the opposite. If they come first, this encourages them and motivates them and they become serious. Anyways, let's just leave it because I'm not sure. Anyways, number 3. How would you do number 3?
If the agency hadn't got into the financial terrible, he wouldn't have started his own business.
Yes, right. Let's write it. So if the agency hadn't got into hadn't got or hadn't gotten, I don't know. Got.
Past perfect.
Yes, we need the past perfect. I think it's gotten.
Got double T-E-N.
I'm not sure, but let's answer it and then check. The agency hadn't gotten into forgotten, forget, forgot. But I think it's American gotten. I'm not sure. I know forgotten is American. But let's complete
I think
it.
gotten past participle.
Yeah, we need the past participle. Past perfect, because in the if clause, remember the rules, and the if clause says you have to use past perfect. I'm just not sure if gotten is the right past perfect, but you have to use past perfect.